In the age of social media, all it takes nowadays to spark up an online fight is to merely have an opinion. One opinion will cause many to spiral into a pit hole of anger where no one dialogues, only insults the person who has the unpopular or even the popular opinion regarding the latest trends in comic books, movies, or pulp culture. It makes sense given the circumstance. After all, acting tough behind the protective wall of the black mirror we all own and use on a daily basis makes it easy for anyone to jump right into a tirade of insults and threats. Again, just for having an opinion that they may disagree with. I decided to go against that notion. I've decided to start a video series where we discuss the hot topic issues within the comic book industry and pulp culture and provide you with another perspective. One of logic, reason, with just plain old dialogue between two people who have different opinions. My co-host and I will discuss the pop culture topics at hand in a fun, engaging, and respectable manner. So, without further ado, let's talk about it. All right, what's up? What's up? Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Let's Talk About It. I'm your host, Julius Freeman, and please welcome my co-host,
Kyle.
Kyle. How you doing, Kyle? How was your week? How was your LA Comic-Con extravaganza?
Oh, it was an extravaganza, I'll tell you what. It was fun, man. This was the first time that I've been to LA Comic-Con. I've been to WonderCon and I've been to some of these other ones, but since, I've just been now into collecting comics. Before, I used to mainly just go to WonderCon because it was closest to me.
Right.
But now I went to LA Comic-Con and man, it was so much fun. I'll show you what I got. So
All right.
one of the main things that I wanted to do while I was there is because I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and the four main hobbits of the Lord of the Rings were there doing an autograph and panel and everything. And I got to meet all four of them, get their autographs. So I got Elijah Wood.
Nice.
Who's Frodo, and then Sean Astin.
Sam Gamgee.
Samwise Gamgee.
Samwise Gamgee.
And then I think this was Mary or Pippin. No, this
Pippin?
is Mary. That's Mary
That's Mary. Okay.
by Dominic Monaghan, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. Sorry, it's reflective on my camera screen. And
It's all
then
good.
Billy Boyd or
Of
Boyd,
course,
or
my favorite, my personal favorite Hobbit in the
Pippin.
movie. Yeah,
Yeah,
Pippin.
especially when I have the quote here. It's like, yeah, we have one, yes, but what about second breakfast?
Yeah, nice. Cool.
So
That's
that was
cool, man.
fun. Got to meet all 5 hours waiting in line, but
Ugh. Ugh.
it was fun. I expected it. And then I got a whole bunch of comics that I was, at least a lot of the ones that I was planning on getting there and I wanted to hunt down. And I got some, I didn't get like the whole run on all of them, which I was hoping for. I only got a
Right.
few, but I did get a lot that I wanted. One of the main ones that I was looking for was John Carpenter's The Thing from Another World.
Ooh, very nice. Very nice.
So yeah, I'm a huge The Thing, John Carpenter's 1980s The Thing
Cool.
fan, and I found out that this story actually continues the story that where the movie left off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I don't know whether or not it's good or not, obviously, because it's not like John Carpenter was the one who's doing it, but um, it's going to be interesting. But I just love that cover, though.
Yeah, it's a
It's
cool
exactly,
cover. I like that. I'm
yeah.
digging that.
Another one that I've been looking for is I've been searching for all the amalgams, which are the DC Marvel, crossover ones where they kind of like combine the two characters. And this one was the one that is pretty hard to find, and I did end up finding it for a pretty good price, which is
Lobo the
Lobo the Duck.
Duck. Look at that, dude. That's
Yeah.
right. I was never a big fan of those amalgam, whatever it's called,
Amagam. I
comics.
call them amalgams,
Amalgams.
but
As I don't even know how you
amalgam.
pronounce that properly, but I
Yeah.
was never a fan of those because I always wanted to see them fight and not converge into one
Well, they
character.
have those too, but
But you know what? I kind of dig. I'm digging the Lobo the
right.
Duck. It kind of makes sense, you know?
Because they're both wacky characters, it both makes sense.
Yeah.
But I like
Yeah,
the
exactly.
I also got the Just Imagine Stan Lee's Green Lantern.
Oh, I hated those. I hated
I've
those
never read
so
them, so
bad,
I don't
dude. Like,
know. I just thought it was cool.
it's no disrespect to Stan Lee, you know. It's just, yeah, I don't know. It was just one of those things that they announced, and I was like, why? Why do that? Why not just give Stan Lee a one shot with Superman? Like,
With
hey,
the actual
Stan,
character
yeah,
instead
like,
of
hey, Stan, why don't you come over here to DC? We'll give you one Superman book, one Batman book, one Green Lantern book, one Wonder Woman book, and you could write it the way you want. I mean, it was just, I don't know. It was one of those things where maybe on paper the idea was good, but then in execution it was like, maybe we should have rethought this a little bit more.
Mhm. And then the last book that I got was Django and Zorro.
Django and Zorro.
Yeah, Quentin Tarantino's Django and Zorro. I love the movie. I just watched it semi recently, and then I found out that there's a comic book of it, and I'm like,
Nice.
man, I gotta go get that. So anyway, that was and then the comic LA Comic Con itself was a lot of fun. I went with my friend, met lots of really cool people.
Tell the
And
folks watching what you cosplayed as.
oh yes, so I cosplayed as on Friday. I went Friday and Saturday. Friday was a night from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and my buddy was Patsy, who's the guy that falls behind with the coconuts and claps them around as as we were walking. So we put on that costume and we were walking all around the convention. And
That's nice.
I just love the reactions of when we go like behind people and they don't know, but they hear the coconut clomping sound, and then they like kind of like look around, and then they like and then their face lights up because it's just everybody loved it. It was so much fun. And then the second day, yeah. Let's see if it.
Oh, can you hear it? You can't hear it, huh?
Yeah, you can hear it, but it's
Oh, you can hear it?
very
Okay.
faint.
Hold on. Let me see if I can.
Yeah.
Can you hear it?
Yeah. So that was basically us through the whole. I did the whole like hand motion and everything, and yeah. So that was us
So throughout the
during the whole
Comic-Con
convention.
floor, that's what you were doing.
Yeah.
That's pretty great.
And then the second day we were dressed up as Cobra Kai's gang guys. Nothing really special is because we knew that we were going to be walking around a lot more,
Right.
and I was going to be standing in line for the autographs. So we didn't really want to do anything that was like super bulky and like cumbersome
Right.
and stuff.
Right.
So I just basically just had like a headband and like a tunic on and same with him.
Cool.
But anyway, and then while we were there, a lot of my favorite comic shop owners and people that I met, through going to all these conventions were there. The main comic shop that I go to all the time, or one of the mains, he was there. His shop was like right at the entrance
Cool.
to the convention. And we basically just stayed there and helped him with selling stuff for the rest of the time when we weren't walking around or waiting in line. It was fun. It was, interesting getting to, talk to people, other comic not creators, but buyers and all the other
Yeah.
customers and stuff, and see what's, actually people wanting to buy and what's interesting. I'd say the most requested thing that we got was Invincible, and then Spawn, Walking Dead, and then Batman and X-Men. Those were the top 5 that we were always asked, hey, do you have this? Or what about that?
Okay. Well, that's nice of you that you're helping the shop owner, with the stand and selling his books and whatnot, which is a great segue for the topic of tonight's show. And the topic of tonight's show is the firestorm that a comic shop owner by the name of Glenn.
Comic character.
Huh?
That's a comic book character, isn't it?
Glenn?
Firestorm.
Oh yeah, Firestorm. Yeah, but I'm not using the comic book character. No, this is a comic shop owner by the name of Glenn. Apologies, I don't remember the name of his shop, but apparently he's been a 30-year comic shop owner, and a person on Twitter by the name of @DefNotTie posted this clip, maybe like a minute clip of this shop owner talking about the state of the comic books that are on the shelves, and they have been on the shelves for the past few years, and it caused a freaking it was a tsunami, man, a tsunami of opinionated, comic book creators, artists, writers, editors, you name it, fans, readers. It was just everyone had an opinion.
And now all the YouTube people are talking about it now too.
People made videos about it on YouTube. People live streamed about it. There's live streams right now as we're talking, and ourselves included, are talking about this because it's such an important topic. It's been something that's been brewing for a few years now, and people have been wondering what's the cause of the not the downsizing, but the lull, the reduction of readers, and the lull of enthusiasm for reading comic books. So let me just play the clip that pretty much went viral because of it. So here it is, Mr. Glenn, and let's see what he has to say.
Most of these new writers don't have the love of comics like these older writers had. And all they care about is, how can I put myself in the book? No, we don't care what you would do if you were Iron Man. We don't care who you are. You're writing Tony Stark. You're not writing yourself in a book. If that's the case, write your own comic with you in it. No one will read it because nobody cares. People grew up growing up loving Peter Parker, loving Miles Morales, loving all these Captain America. We don't need you to put your input in it Just write Steve Rogers. Don't write Steve Rogers. What would Steve Rogers be if I was Steve Rogers? That's not how it works. But that's again how most of these new people write nowadays. That's why most of the stuff is shit. Because we don't care what you would do, because we don't care about your life whatsoever. Just write a book, get paid for what you do, get paid for what you're supposed to be doing, and make it a good story. Most of these new writers.
All right, so I'll replay the video, and the second time I play it, I'll pause it in between parts. But overall, now upon watching it again, I can see how people reacted the way they did. Because I totally didn't pick up on the last part of it, which is no one gives a shit, right? And that's right. I can see how that would be a personal attack to a lot of these modern writers who write books today, who have their books on the shelves. Like you look behind them, I see Daredevil. I see a few Daredevil books, and I don't know, I can't make out the name of that book behind them. But
I don't know.
Yeah, I would imagine most of these writers who write for the Marvel and DC comics today probably took offense to that, because self-insertion in books is nothing new. It's been done over and over and over again. But he does have a point in terms of legacy characters already established. So, like for instance, my book, Ghetto Dragon. Now, people will read that and think I'm self-inserting myself into Matt Guerra, the main character of the Ghetto Dragon. And to some extent, that is true. But it's like a sliver of myself. It's the sliver of, like, you know, my upbringing in the ghetto streets of Santa Ana during the late 80s and early 90s. But I'm not a martial artist.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I made sure to write the character to follow the Bruce Lee philosophy of Jeet Kune Do, which separates me from the character, because I don't know anything about Jeet Kune Do other than the fact that of the book that he wrote called The Tao of, well, Bruce Lee anyway, The Tao of Jeet Kune Do, which is the philosophy behind his martial arts style, which is, you know, in short, in the condensed version, is using lethal force in the street fight. So if someone comes at you with a knife, you break their wrist. You pretty much disable your opponent as quickly as possible before it escalates to something more deadly, a deadly fight. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. What do you think? What do you think of this? His take? I mean, you're a new comic book reader. You've been reading comics for a little over a year now.
Right.
Did you ever find yourself upon reading the newer stuff from DC and Marvel, of what he's talking about, self-insertion, or do you feel like of the quality is not as good as the quality was when you've been reading older books since you've been reading comics?
I do think that there is definitely a disparity between the two, because, and I've mentioned that as we've done reviews of my Is It Worth the Pickup, where
Right.
I've mentioned before, I think it was on when I reviewed Batman and Superman, where I told him when I did the review, this doesn't sound like Batman. This doesn't sound like Superman. This sounds like it's just a dialogue, but it has nothing to do with Batman or Superman. It's like
there's no distinction, in other words.
Right. It just sounds like just two people talk. You could have interchanged Batman and Superman with any other two characters, and the story wouldn't have changed necessarily, because it wasn't anything that tied it to Batman. When I think of Batman, I'm thinking of, like really, like, cold, calculating, almost, trying to like plan out, chess man. Superman, the hopeful, wide-eyed type, sort of, that realizes that if he ever goes too far, things can really, bad things can happen.
Right.
Didn't really get that in any of it. And same with Batman and Robin. It was a different issue where Batman just didn't seem like himself. He was, especially with Damian Wayne Robin. Damian Wayne seemed okay. He seemed like I would expect him to, but Batman just was a little bit. He just felt more like a dad instead of Batman.
Right.
And that's completely different from when you read any other Batman stories from, like,
So for instance, you've read The Long Halloween.
Right.
Now, Jeff Loebs and Tim Sales Bruce Wayne and Batman. How does that compare with the newer Batman that you've been reading? Is it the same? Is it starkly different? What exactly have you noticed in terms of the compare and contrast of the two?
I would say I would fall more in line of what my picture of Batman would be more in line with the Long Halloween with Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, because he's always in the shadows. He's more reserved, especially when like Catwoman's there and they have that back and forth dialogue where she's very playful and trying to like tease him all the time, and he's just like, no, we can't do this,
Right.
Like, yes, but it's that sort of strong silent type versus the newer stuff where he's a lot more open, I guess you would say, more talkative, which it seems against his type. He's supposed to be the dark brooding guy for a reason,
right?
But yeah, that's what I got from what he was saying of like, yeah, it's true. From me just reading comics from the last year, things don't correlate very well between old style Batman, Superman, Captain America versus new style. There are a couple, obviously there are exceptions to everything, but for the most part, yeah, it's been, I guess, jarring to say the least.
Yeah, that's what I was noticing upon my I guess noticing of the quality of the material years and years ago. I haven't picked up a Marvel or DC book in years, with the exception of Wolverine, Predator, the new Captain America by Straczynski, because it's actually a Captain America book. That actually is.
That's what I was going to say. That's one of the exceptions.
Yeah, and of course, Big Game by Mark Millar, but that's not really a Marvel or DC book.
And whatever I show you.
Yeah, when I started to notice the shift back in 2000, I want to say, for me anyway, speaking for myself, 2013, 2014. I know it's a while ago. That's almost 10 years ago. But I started noticing the changes. I started noticing the shift of the stories that they were presenting to me, and I realized it's my time to move on. This is no longer targeted towards me in my demographic, I'm assuming. So I'm gonna step away, and I shifted my focus to indie, and I stayed there for the latter part of 10 years. And of course, I've had a few friends over the years recommend me books. For instance, the Green Lantern, Heroes Reborn, not Heroes Reborn, Rebirth.
Rebirth.
my apologies to Marvel. Rebirth with Ethan Van Sciver and Jeff Johns. I had a few of my friends tell me, dude, you need to pick up Rebirth. It's so good. And I was at that point, I was like, I'm over it, dude. I'm over DC and Marvel. They're just giving me the same old shit. And I was wrong. When you let me the trade, and I read the Green Lantern Rebirth story, and I was like, fuck, this is good. Like, actually, this is really good. Holy crap. I can't believe I missed out on this. And shame on me for allowing myself the despair, right? Like, no, it's just same old recycled crap. I'm not going to read it. But I guess that was the last of it before it got really bad, or not really bad, but I guess when they totally shifted post 2016, when they just totally went a whole different direction, and that caused a major split in the fandom. Now you have Comicsgate, you have other groups like the SJWs or the leftists, whatever. I really don't give a shit about any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. For me, it was just like, dude, like what you like, don't like what you like, it's fine. You don't have to fart in the room before you leave, right? Just put down the book and move on to something else that excites you, that you can enjoy and you could venerate and you could spread the word for. Like, dude, this book is fucking good. Check this out. If you like Green Lantern, or if you like Superman, I found this indie book that's kind of in the same alley of that. Here, check it out. But I get it at the same time. People like what they like, and they want to stick with that. So I can understand both sides of the argument, but for me, the major problem is don't be a dick. Don't be an asshole. And there's plenty to go around on both sides. But let's actually look at the guy's video again in detail.
Don't have the love of comics like these older writers have. had. Most of these new writers don't have the love of comics like these older writers had.
Okay, I can see that. A lot of the new generation of writers and editors who came into the industry that I've noticed, they casually read comics. You could tell too, it comes off. They casually read them. They graduated college or university, whatever, with a degree in literature, English, whatever the degree is. And they thought it'd be kind of cool to work for a comic book company and be editor or be associate editor or be a writer, that kind of thing. The artists obviously are still, you could tell a lot of the artists that they have today really love comics because of the high quality work they present. But I mean, he's kind of on the money here for me. But I do feel in some of the books that you lent me, that you picked up and you had me read, and after I read them, I find myself going, this person doesn't care about the material they're writing. They're just doing it because they're paying them good money, him or her, whatever. And they're just doing it to collect the check because they can. And it comes off. It comes off the paper. And of course, it's all subjective as well. So don't come at me and attack me. I get it. Not everyone's gonna like what you like, but as coming from the perspective of a writer and an editor and a lover of comic books, the medium of comics, I can tell when someone's passionate about it and someone's not.
But I'd also add to that where not just the new writers don't fell out of love with comics, but some of the old veteran writers also sometimes took a step down in their quality.
Yeah, it's like that issue of Teen Titans. Was it Teen Titans?
As Mark Waid.
Mark Waid, right? Yeah, when I remember reading that going, this is Mark Waid? I don't remember Mark Waid ever writing like this. And I get that it's supposed to be, because not every issue can be an extravagant, action-packed slobber knocker. I get that. Sometimes you need issues where not many things happen, but it continues on the storyline or whatever the case.
Or at least the character development.
Or that, yeah. And I remember that issue, the Comic-Con issue, I was like, this is Mark Waid? Like, this is okay. All right. Maybe he just was bored and just wrote this script and just sent it in and said, okay, here it is. And yeah, you're right. It didn't have, it wasn't the Mark Waid I read when I read Flash,
right,
or read Kingdom Come.
I know. Kingdom Come's one of my favorites.
Yeah, and
that's the reason why I wanted to get this Teen Titans, because it was Mark Waid.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know, man. That's crazy.
Well, but then there's a current book, series that I'm reading, which is the Justice Society, and I think it's Jeff Johns who's writing it. And I think it's not like that the book is boring. I think what he's given in terms of like what he can do seems very limited, because it seems like he wants to do more with his writing and what the story wants to be, but it just can't for some reason. And so like, it's interesting enough to where I'll keep reading it, but it's not like, wow, really great. Like, this is the next new series that like it's going to be super great. It's because I love, the Justice Society. Dr. Fate is one of my favorite characters, and he's a semi-prominent role in the series, but something's not clicking in the book, which makes it kind of jarring to read sometimes.
Right. Yeah, of course. When you have that kind of thing, it takes you out of the reading experience. You want to the goal of every comic book writer should be hook your reader and get them lost in your story in a good way, not in a bad way, not the whole like, wait, what's going on here?
Yeah, that's the wrong kind of lost.
Yeah, that's the wrong kind of wrong. Yeah, it's the wrong kind of like, lost in your story. What I mean by lost is like they're immersed in your story and they feel like they're there watching the characters do their thing. And that's another lost art I feel in most writers. Not every writer, most of them. There are obviously exceptions to the rule. But yeah, you're right. It's one of those things where you don't want to jar the reader out of the experience. You want them to be engaged in your story. Right, let's go on. Let's keep going.
And all they care about is how can I put myself in the book? No, we don't care what you would do if you were Iron Man. We don't care who you are. You're writing Tony Stark. You're not writing yourself in a book. If that's the case, write your own comic with you in it. No one will read it because nobody cares.
I don't mean to laugh, but it's just, it was just, I like brazen people like this. They always crack me up. But that's I'm 50-50 on that. That's not entirely true. If you create your own book, your own indie book, and you self-insert, you make yourself the superhero, you make yourself even the villain for even like who gives a fuck? Or
Right.
if it's like a semi-autobiographical comic where
And,
maybe it's not
hard time
entirely
saying
true,
that.
but there's some similarities, or maybe it's a totally fictional book and you insert yourself in it. I don't see any problem with that. There's a Animal Run.
What?
Animal Man, written by Grant Morrison, back in the early 90s or late 80s. I can't remember which of the two decades. He was the writer for Animal Man, and Grant Morrison inserted himself into the series. He didn't make himself the hero, but he wrote an issue where Animal Man talks to Grant Morrison about the process of writing and writing the character. It was beautiful. It was a meta moment in the series. Now it's kind of become a cliche, but back then it was like, whoa, that's fucking crazy. He's talking to the writer of the comic book. But
that's sort of like a Deadpool thing to do.
Yeah, it became a
breaking the
Deadpool
fourth
thing.
wall.
But I personally do not mind self-insertion if it's done right. If it's done okay, great. If it's an indie book, but if it's a legacy character has been around since before you were born, then I'm sorry, dude. You got to respect the source material. You can't change it unless the estate or the owner of the IP lets you.
Right.
Then I have no problem with it, because like, hey, if the owner of the IP said, yeah, go for it, do whatever the fuck you want, then hey, all bets are off. Then he gave the blessing. It's okay.
Kind of like Miracle Man. What happened with Miracle Man?
What happened with Miracle Man?
No, I mean, like what you were saying with like giving the blessing to continue the story.
Oh, with Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman.
Alan Moore, yeah,
exactly. That's. I mean, not really. Neil Gaiman didn't really change crazy.
No, but I'm just like giving blessing to go on and continue the story.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about deconstructing the character.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about handing it off and then someone takes it, runs with it. Because Neil Gaiman at least respected what Alan Moore established in his run. Mm-hmm. He kept it intact. He didn't disassemble it and make a brand new number one. He was he just continued it, but his way. One example that comes to mind is the creation of the Winter Soldier, in terms of not self-insertion, but I know it's a little off topic, but it's pretty much about how Bucky Barnes, the character, was one of the only comic book characters to remain dead in the comic book lore. It was him and Gwen Stacy. Those two characters remained dead until they brought back. I think they brought back Gwen Stacy a few years back. I'm not entirely sure if those in the chat listening.
Spider-Gwen now.
Okay, so they did bring her back and made her Spider-Gwen, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
If you're listening in the chat, if you guys know if they actually brought back Gwen Stacy, let me know. But Bucky Barnes was one example where he remained dead, and all the editors and writers wanted to respect that, and didn't ever try to bring him back up until Ed Brubaker came onto the scene and had this idea to bring him back, and that was the only time where a writer was allowed to do. I know it's a little off topic, but I just wanted to share that story because I thought it was brilliantly done. Because once again, even though Ed Brubaker brought back Bucky and made him the Winter Soldier, he still kept what Jack Kirby and Joe Simon did in the original run, which is they thought he was dead, but in reality, he was captured by the Soviets, brainwashed, and made into a super soldier himself.
And then assassin.
So it worked. But that I know it's chasing rabbits here, but I just wanted to bring that up. So let's keep on hearing them.
People grew up growing up loving Peter Parker, loving Miles Morales, loving all these Captain America. We don't need you to put your input in it. Just write Steve Rogers.
Right. There you go. Work for hire, right? You get hired to write the character. You write the character the best way you know how. Now, if I were hired by Marvel or DC and they asked me, Julius, we want you to write, I said Firestorm earlier, right? Firestorm. Now, I personally don't know. I don't care about Firestorm. He's not a favorite character of mine. He's not my favorite. I never read a Firestorm comic. I never wanted to. The character never interested me. But damn it, I have a job to do. So I would have said, okay, I'll be more than happy to write Firestorm. Can you please provide me the encyclopedic knowledge of the character's story and history so I could study it? And then once I study it and know the ins and outs of this character, where he came from, what his powers are. It's a male, right? See, I don't even know because
I don't know.
Well, whatever the case, let me know everything about the character. Give me the knowledge of the character, and I'll come up with a damn good story. And I'm gonna follow the guidelines of what came before me by writers and artists who came before me with and did something with the character. That's what I would do. That was ideal for a writer to get that kind of a task. And now I feel like whenever that happens, they just completely not destroy them, but change them inside out. And it's like, at least if you're going to do that, at least have the decency to explain it, right? They didn't just bring back Bucky Barnes for the sake of bringing him back. Ed Brubaker had an idea, pitched it, and the editors went, shit, that's actually pretty good. That actually can work. And that's the key word. Does it work, right?
Right. Does it fit within the story? And
does it fit within the story? Not only the story, but the mythos behind everything that's come before him.
Mm-hmm.
And it does. And that's, and again, I personally don't care about changes. I really don't care because it's comic books. Why the fuck not? But at least explain it to us. Show us how the change comes about. And that's it. But they don't do that.
Don't write Steve Rogers. What would Steve Rogers be if I was Steve Rogers? That's not how it works. But that's again how most of these new people write nowadays. That's why most of the stuff is shit.
What do you think? You agree with that, Kyle? It's mostly because you're more of a comic book reader than I am. You go to the stores every Wednesday and you try out new stuff. And since you've been doing it for a year, I mean, do you agree for the most part, or do you disagree for the most part?
I mean, from my personal experience, I'd say he was a little harsher than he needs to be because there are some good comic books out there that are current.
Okay, that's fair.
And I have read them. However, there are a lot of terrible ones and ones that I'm like, I don't really care to go and read again. And a lot of the times where I would go and see, like I pick up an issue, I give it a couple issues to see if it goes anywhere.
Right.
And then right around 3 or 4 or something like that, and I see it on the wall again, I look at it and I see, all right, is this going to still hold my interest? And if it doesn't, then I just put it back and then I forget about it. And a lot of the book series I've dropped because of that, because they never interested me or kept me because of varying reasons.
Right. So you're half and half essentially with that sentiment.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that every single new comic is terrible, but I would say that there are out there, but then that's kind of like with anything. But
yeah, it is. But let me tell you, I'll tell you this, since I'm the old fart in the show.
Yeah.
When I was going every Wednesday, like you are now, it seemed like every book from Marvel and DC that was interested in me, I had to pick up every week. There was never a bad issue. There were slow issues, meaning that not much stuff happened, right? It kind of, but it still progressed the story. They were still at least entertaining. They were still at least engaging. There's an issue I loved with Ultimate X-Men, Mark Millar, and I think it was, I don't know if it was Adam or Andy Kubert who drew the issue. It was an issue where they all hung out. It was after a major, storyline where they had this big fight with Magneto, right? And then I forgot what issue it was. I don't know if it was 6 or 7. I can't remember. It's been so long. There was an issue where they just all hung out. Nothing happened. Nothing profound happened. They were just hanging out, having the day for themselves. And you know what? That issue was still good because you got to see them be normal in an abnormal world that they're living in. I think Jean Grey and I forgot who it was, went rollerblading for the day, went to visited coffee shops. I think Cyclops did some other thing like on his own. It was like a very wholesome issue. It very, very like I said, it really made you connect with the characters even more. And it was just one issue, one 28-page issue,
right?
Of nothing happening, but it was still engaging. It was still fun to read.
And I think
the fact that you tell me that not all of it is bad, and I'll agree with you. I don't think all of it is bad. I think there's some gems there. It's just that social media and the toxicity of the fandom today, they don't like to focus on the good shit. They just want to focus on the bad shit because that's what gives them numbers. That's what gets them interaction on social media. But when I was collecting, almost every book was great. And even that includes the non-Marvel and DC stuff, like Spy Boy. Spy Boy is one of my favorite comics outside of Marvel and DC. It was published by Dark Horse, Popman and oh gosh, Peter David. And that was one of my favorite. I mean, if you guys haven't read Spy Boy, just go pick it up. It's fucking fantastic. But I would say, to sum it up, I know I could be entirely wrong because everyone is different, but I would say 90% of the books were great when you went to the shops.
Really?
Yeah, 90%. It was a guarantee that any new book that you gave a shot, like you like, oh, I'm gonna try this one. It was gonna be good. Maybe not great, but at least it was good. Where you were like, you know what? I'm gonna pick up next issue. This is pretty fucking good. Now I feel like, maybe I'll try the next one. I don't know.
Right. That's how I feel. I'd say, I mean, like, I try to pick up a lot of issues that I can.
Right.
However, we talked about pricing.
Yeah.
Plays a factor. So there's a lot of books that I would have given a chance. Right. However, if I didn't see anything when I first flipped through it, and that price tag of $5 is on that, cover, it does turn me off, because if it's not like, if it was as great as what you were saying back then, I probably would have given it more of a chance. But it's less than 50-50 now, whether or not it's going to keep my interest.
Yeah, I read the 3rd issue of Captain America, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
I'm not picking up the 4th one.
Really? I haven't read that one yet.
It was, let me know what it is. Let me know how it is, because I was like, okay, I'm done. I wanted something to happen here, and it didn't happen. Straczynski still gave us like, oh, now the bad guy is ready for. It's like, no, dude, something had to happen here, and it didn't happen. So I'm done. I'm done picking it up. So if you pick up issue 4 and you read it, and you tell me, oh, it's great, then I'll probably go get it myself somewhere else.
Okay. I haven't read that one yet. I've been behind.
I'm done, dude. All right, let's keep going.
Because we don't care what you would do, because we don't care about your life whatsoever. Just write a book, get paid for what you do, get paid for what you're supposed to be doing, and make it a good story.
So there you have it. Make it a good story. Now, I tweeted something out earlier about my moniker, a lucid comic, where story matters. Because I thought about this. I've been contemplating what he said. Make your story, good, right? And I realize that we're in the business of telling stories,
Right.
and you can have the great concept, you can have the great idea, but if you don't execute that story, then you're going to lose readers. You lost the readers, and he's right. And going back to what I said when I was collecting books every Wednesday, when I go to the shop every Wednesday, because I felt the need to pick, to go back and make sure I got the next issue of this fantastic story that I've been, it's kind of like a cliffhanger, right? I need to know what's going to happen next. And that's because the writers back then cared about the characters. They cared about the legacy that was left behind for them to pick up and run with the ball. Benjamin Soto says, I know the writers are taking the heat, but I think most of the blame falls on the shoulders of editorial. Good point, Benjamin. It's the editor's job to stop these bad stories from seeing the light of day. That's a great point. We talked about this too, didn't we, Kyle, at one point, about editorial, about how the editors, to my understanding, I've never worked for any comic book publisher. I don't know what editorial does exactly, but from my understanding, they pick out the talent that they see that may have potential to write a good book from the characters that they're in charge of. I think earlier we talked. I told you about the taking an editor who finds a writer, an artist to write a B or C level character, and they end up creating buzz and making money or selling a bunch of books, and they move up the ladder to take on bigger roles. That's what happened with Joe Quesada from Marvel Comics. Him and Jimmy Palmiotti took on the reins of Daredevil, and they hired Kevin Smith. They recruited Kevin Smith to write Daredevil. And at that point, Daredevil was a C-list character. He wasn't moving books. He was kind of dying out. No one really cared about Daredevil at that point. It was like 10 years plus after Frank Miller, and they couldn't really recapture what Frank Miller brought to Daredevil. And so they tried all these new things, and it wasn't working out. And then when Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti got a hold of the character, they hired Kevin Smith, and they revitalized the character. They made the character freaking great again, and sold a bunch of copies, and that eventually led to Joe Quesada being promoted to editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics. And that's when he was able to recruit Mark Millar, Brian Michael Bendis, and all Steve Dillon and Garth Ennis for Punisher. And it blew up. Joe Quesada's early years of Marvel were the best years of comic books. I was fucking hyped every month to pick up a ultimate Marvel comic book.
Right. I've been reading those right now. The Marvel Ultimates run.
And dude, it was I mean, great shit. Like I couldn't believe. Hold on, there you go. I couldn't believe like how much talent he recruited to Marvel to pretty much revitalize the product, and he did. Like he truly did. And to Benjamin's point, editorial does play a major factor in making sure that they hire the right writers and artists to produce the best possible books imaginable. Marvel Knights books were great. They were, dude. They really were. Punisher, when Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon came on Punisher, it was lit because they had just come off Preacher, their comic book Preacher from Vertigo Comics. And again, they worked well together. And so it was only natural to be like, hey, you guys want to come over to Marvel and do Punisher? I was like, yeah, let's go for it, and made a bunch of money, man. Bunch of money. They sold a bunch of books when they jumped ship. So I mean, yeah, man, stories are important. If you don't tell a good story, then why should people care?
Right.
I mean, it's not.
Oh, well, the art looks good, but even sometimes the art doesn't.
Yeah. And there was a big hullabaloo that happened after that video went viral. A lot of people attacked his looks. A lot of people attacked him personally because of his of what he talked about. And again, like the intro of our show, people just lose their shit when someone has an opinion about
Yeah.
something. And it's so funny to me. It's like a double standard in a lot of ways, because it's like, well, I see your Twitter feed. Your Twitter posts show up on my feed, and I see what you say, and you have no problem expressing your opinions about stuff. Like, no problem. So why can't other people do the same thing? Even though they may not fall in line with your outlook, but that's the whole point of the dialogue, right? You state your opinion, and hopefully you can have a dialogue and discussion, and maybe you could find some common ground.
Right.
But yeah, it blew up. It led to Mark Millar inviting him on the show to interview him, and they had a great conversation. I don't want to play the video now because it's a half-hour video, and I don't want to take up a lot more time. But if you guys want to check out that video between Mark Millar and Glenn, check it out. I recommend it. It's very constructive, very informative. And if you're a serious writer, if you're a serious comic book creator, I highly recommend you look into the business side of our industry, because without the monetary gain of your books, the less likely you can produce more books. Right? It's just pretty much like basic.
Wait, you're saying that when people buy their books, that means that more people can create more books, and then it goes up like that? But then when people
Yes,
don't
Kyle.
buy the books, then there's no people willing to write the books, and then it
That's
just
right,
goes
Kyle.
down? Huh.
That's right.
How
That's
about
right.
that?
It's a very complex thing, and
Apparently.
it's crazy that they didn't argue his point, that these pros didn't say, check out my book, I'm writing some great stuff. It was all personal attacks. There you go, personal attacks. Yeah, and that's another thing. When someone confronts you with the truth, right? It's human nature. When someone confronts you with truth, two things are going to happen. One, you're going to double down, you're going to keep on lying right to their face, or you're going to get really angry,
Right.
because you got called out. And based on the reactions of a lot of these quote unquote pros, it speaks volumes in the way that they reacted to this guy who just gave an opinion about comic book stories.
And it's not like
And
he's some random Joe Schmo off the street. I
yeah,
mean, he's a comic shop owner. He's been there for a while. He knows, the books. He knows his clientele, and he can see with his own eyes what's moving, what's not moving.
yeah, and to add to Benjamin's point, he's right. If the pros would have said, you know what, if you guys think that way, you guys have not read this book. Pick it up. That's it. That's all they had to do. And that would have been fine. That would have been like, you know what? All right, fucking let's give it a shot then. If that's what you're claiming, if you're claiming that your book is fantastic, all right, I'm gonna check it out then. I'm gonna go to my local comic shop and I'm gonna give them my money and pick up your book, because you actually acted like a professional and not like a petulant child, like most of these
Right.
quote unquote pros, and not just pros, but also readers and indie creators as well acted. Like, it was unreal at the fact that this guy that they disparaged this guy simply because he had an opinion about something a product that he moves. And I mean, you talk to shop owners, Kyle, so give us a little insights as to I guess what comic shop owners have told you in the past that you've learned, or you found to be a little bit profound, and like, oh wow, I never thought of it that way. Do you have any stories you want to you could share?
The only things, so I go to one of my local comic book shops every Wednesday, as we've talked about. And I always ask them, hey, how are things going? How busy has it been this week? What's been selling? What's been moving? And most of the time, they say, yeah, it's been usually pretty busy on Wednesdays. We get, people in waves that come in. He says, every now and again, there's like just a bunch load of people that come in for books that aren't necessarily like the big name books, and he doesn't necessarily know why. He didn't really elaborate on that, but But he does say that like kids usually come in on some days, but they always go towards the dollar bin area.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
And that kind of goes to what
Oops,
we
sorry.
were saying about the pricing and accessibility, because if you've only got $5 to spend, you can either get 5 $1 books, or you can maybe get one book.
Right. Yeah, and you have to think about the sales tax too. So $4.99 plus tax.
Yeah.
So
So it's
and that's a great point. So you're telling me that the people who you've spoken to who work at the shops have told you that the dollar bins are the most accessible for the young readers anyway.
right. Yeah. At least for the
Damn.
most part. Every now and again when I go in there, I do see some kids like with their parents, and they all like, they know the main characters, like, oh, that's Batman. I want
Right.
Batman or something like that. And the dad's usually the one that like is getting the books like for himself, and then he's kind of like, oh yeah, I'll get you a Batman. And then which one do you want? I want that one. Okay. So but besides that, and then also too, there's not usually a whole lot of people. But then granted, I usually come after work, which is like close to when they're closing. So
Yeah.
there's not usually a whole lot of people there, but um yeah, it seems dead most of the time, which is sad.
Yeah. Once again, when I was going every Wednesday, and that, by the way, guys, just so you guys know, the shop that Kyle goes to is the shop that I used to go to every Wednesday. So just so you guys have a reference, when I used to go to that shop, there used to be a fucking line to the back of the store to buy your books. And then on top of that, the reason why it was so like I guess for lack of a better term, daunting to wait in line is because the 10 or 12 people in front of you had stacks of books that you had to wait for the cashier to like individually input into the register, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna be here forever. But you're telling me that's not doesn't even occur when you go on Wednesdays anymore.
The most, well, again, granted, I go when it's close to closing anyway, but I've never had to really wait in line
Well,
ever. I've
here's the
always
thing.
just
Here's the
what?
thing, Kyle. I used to go before closing time.
Oh, really?
And there'd be a line, and there'd be a
Oh,
fucking line to the back of the store.
I thought you went during lunch break. I thought that's where you were
I
going.
sometimes would go on lunch breaks, but there'd be some months where I show up at 5 thinking, oh, man, someone's gonna be there, and it's fucking packed. It's packed.
Yeah, no,
People.
that doesn't happen now. It's
Gosh,
I
man.
am I it's a lot of the times it's usually me, the shop owner, or the one of the higher guys. Not usually he's the owner's not usually there. It's usually just one of the
Yeah,
his
right,
higher
right.
guys. Anyway, them and then like maybe one other person.
Jeez.
And so I'm just talking with him throughout the, for half hour or so, grabbing my books and stuff. And yeah,
Man, that's crazy, dude. Very crazy. But hey, it's maybe it's a sign of the times. Maybe I mean, who knows what it is? But the fact is, there's a lot of factors at play that people don't in the industry right now, currently, the ones who are the gatekeepers currently within the industry, they don't want to acknowledge or admit, probably because of their pride, their egos. I have no idea. But the fact is, um, it looks to me, where I'm from anyway, in our area, not many people are enthusiastic about comics. Maybe in those bigger cities there are, because obviously there's a larger population number in those bigger cities. So maybe for them it's like, oh, what are you talking about? When the shop I go to is always packed. But it's like, dude, that's not the reflection of the entire fucking country.
right.
Like, just because your shop is full doesn't mean that every other shop in the rest of the country is full. It's just yours. So, get your
The
head
thing
out of
is
your ass.
that we've seen now is that shops have been closing around.
There was a shop near me that was walking distance, and I was like, great, finally a shop that's I could walk to. Went there, They had a pretty good selection. But there was a few choices where I was like, oh, that's interesting. Why would they have this book? Why would they purchase this book? And I was like, whatever. 3 months later, I go back because I wanted to pick up an issue of a comic book, and it closed down. It was becoming a yoga class. It's like
Wow,
place
that's fast.
very fast, and I was like, whoa, what happened here? But again, it's because sometimes you just maybe open at the wrong spot, or maybe people didn't really know. But I mean, they had Rob Liefeld sign a few books at their shop, so it's like people knew you were there. So what happened? What happened to your shop? What did you do wrong? But whatever the case may be, it's a little disheartening to see the quote unquote pros come after this guy and once again disparage an entire readership again, and just not fucking grow up and mature and just say, you know what, fuck this shit. Let's bygones be bygones. Pick up my book. You will love it. Let's move on from this shit. But they don't want to move on. So it's like, all right, they're going to double down. They're going to double down. Speaking of double down, it is now time. It is now that time for our segment known as Is It Worth the Pickup?
It's worth the pickup.
With Kyle. Now, for those of you who don't know about the segment, Kyle here goes to the comic book shop every Wednesday, picks up a new book, tries out a new book, and reads it, checks it out. Then he lets you know whether or not he liked it, he enjoyed it, didn't enjoy it, and then either recommends it for you to pick it up or recommends for you not to pick it up and save your money, because obviously, as he said earlier, it's $5 to pick up a comic book. The economy is fucking bad right now, so people are tightening up their wallets and becoming more picky as to what they pick up. So this week, Kyle, which book did you pick up and read today?
So this week, which we teased a couple weeks ago, actually, was Isom #1.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen.
So I got this book because, as me and Julius talks about at work, obviously we go over what's been going on in the comic book industry, some of who these people are, and Isom and Eric July is a topic that we usually talk about, and everybody's got an opinion on him and this book, and so I wanted to go and give my 2 cents, as it were. So I went out and I went on one of my like eBay or something like that, picked it up, and I paid $20 for it, that's including with the shipping and everything. Read it, and then I handed it off to Julius, who, have you even finished it?
No, I couldn't finish it.
Okay, we'll get into that.
Yeah, I couldn't finish it.
But so overall, my thoughts on this book was okay-ish.
Okay-ish? Just okay-ish, huh?
Yeah. Look, there was things in it that I did like, but there were a lot of things that I had problems with, and a lot of it mainly had to do with the character motivations, because there wasn't a whole lot that got me connected with the main character, whose name was Avery, I believe. We find out, we see that he's like a humble farmer type kind of guy who is then literally called into action by his sister for an unknown reason. And then we cut to this superhero, I guess she's a supervillain, named Yara. Yara, I guess is how you pronounce it.
I think so.
How do you pronounce it?
Yara? I don't know.
Yara
Probably Yara, yeah.
area. I don't know. Anyway, I thought that the book should have started here with this fight.
Okay.
Because starting off in the middle of nowhere with Avery not really doing anything did not hook me right away. That was one of the main gripes I had with it. Now, the reason why is because this fight here between Yara and what is Alpha Core is actually pretty good. I like this fight. I like the choreography. I could track the fight and the punches and everything were really good. And then you have the big, shot of Alpha Core right there. But then, this is like in the middle of the fight, and then it cuts, and then it's not there, and then it's not there
Goes to
anymore.
black.
They
What's going on here?
I don't know why it's black,
There you go.
but it just completely drops that whole fight. There's no conclusion. There's no nothing. It just stops, and that was really jarring to me on why that happened. We'll go back up. Him right there, Avery with that sort of slouch, lumped over. I don't know what the intention behind that was. Is that to show him that he's reserved, like he's not, like he's given up or something like that? That's just like the weirdest, most anti-climatic sort of pose or sitting down that you could have. The boss guy's like a big kingpin person that
Right.
I don't really care for because he doesn't really have a problem. And again, it's just like there's no reason why Avery needs to fight these people. Yeah, he's trying to get information from them, and he's not, and the boss isn't giving it. But we have the big fight scene here with him showing off his strength,
which is pretty good. I mean, it was pretty good.
That's what I'm saying. Like the fight scenes, when they're done, are good, but it didn't work. And then he gets thrown across the city and ends up literally crashing into the other girl, Yara. But there's no connection between the two. Like, what's she doing there? Why is she done fighting Alpha Core guys? Or it's
Right.
a lot of things where it seems like it could have been like shorts that were kind of like tried to piece together. Benjamin Solo says, was he punching someone's guts out? Yeah, he was. They were trying to, I guess, show how strong.
Oh, I see.
He was.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I see. Yes, right here. This here, right? This panel right here.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah, see it. That wasn't made clear. I mean, he punched him here.
I got that.
Well, I thought this was a different. a different guy, but apparently, what's that?
He has the dreads. He has the same dreads.
No, I know, but see, he swings and he misses, and he punches, but it looks like he punches his chest, and then here he has his guts out.
Right.
And it's like, did he punch his guts or did he punch his chest? And if anything, if that were the case, then I would have told the artist, if I were the editor of this book, by the way, hint, hint, then I would have had the artist go, why don't you just draw his everything back here, like if the punch went through and it broke like his spinal cord is back there or whatever, since you're gonna have it here, right? Because those are his ribs, I assume.
Right.
And that's his dread, not his guts.
That's his dread.
Okay,
but
so
I mean, yeah. But then
I would have just done that, but
also
whatever.
with the scene, the dialogue in it, Avery's coming there and he's all like, I don't want to make a scene. I'm meeting you with respect and stuff like that. But then Avery throws the first punch.
Yeah.
So you could have easily have written that off with them just kicking him out and punching him first, and then he reacts.
Right.
Yeah. But if he basically starts it in a way, and then they fight. But again, I don't know why they're fighting. They just like, oh, we got to fight now.
Yeah,
It's
and
like, who
Alpha
are
Core
you?
are nowhere to be seen here. They're
No.
kind of just
Besides that,
watching the whole thing instead of grabbing both of them, going, "Wait a second, what's who are you? And how is it that you could block her punches?" Right?
yeah.
And then of course she takes him, but there's no Alpha Core, and then she throws him, and then she flies away. And Alpha Core, I think, well, you don't. It's not shown here, but he lands on the car, and Alpha Core is like, "Oh crap, they dropped you," instead of catching them. So, I don't know. It's keep going with your thoughts.
um, it just a lot of the times it just that it didn't seem that he was. I guess he was the main character in the sense that he was on the screen most, but he was
Mm,
not an engaging character. He's just kind of, I would say, letting the story push him to where he needs to go instead of him actively going and doing it and making his
right.
own decisions.
Okay. I will
Um,
say I like the name of the club. I'll admit that.
like I said, there are parts in it that I like the fight scenes. There are some good facial expressions and like some emotion when he's talking to people. But then you get here where the main story is that he's trying to find somebody, this
Yeah.
woman, and he just randomly finds her on the street. It's like he's like trying to be like this detective throughout most of the book, and then he just like randomly goes to a club where he thinks that she might be, and then just runs into her. And then she takes off, and then these big brute guys come in and mess him around a bit. Um, again, and then this scene here where he's fighting the main big brute. Yeah, this great action pose. It's really great. All right, I can't wait to see what's the follow through. What's the aftermath? Oh, they just kind of go over.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty bad. It wasn't. Yeah, they missed a panel here. The panel
Right.
should have been maybe it would have worked. This panel here would have worked if they had a previous panel where they both punch each other at the same time,
Yeah, maybe like two fists or
causing
something.
causing the what do you call that? I don't want to say ricochet, but the
The negative force type.
yeah, whatever it's called. I can't think of the proper name for it, but then of course then you do it again. Then you run and rush.
Yeah. See, I like that where he like you could see him grab his arm,
Yeah,
kind of throw him over.
I
I did
see.
like
Yeah, but this was
that.
maybe this could have been done, or maybe this one could have been cut out, and then run, catch, and then slam.
Yeah,
So maybe the
I guess I
second
could
panel
see
here could have
that.
been cut out. This could have been cut out right here. Catch, slam. That would have worked. Right? Boom, boom. And then
Yeah,
the hood. And then I like this. This was cool.
right.
Kind of like,
Kind of throw him
ready
up in
ready
the
for
air.
the volleyball, right? The volleyball
Kind of like a
strike.
Mortal Kombat type
Yeah,
finish
yeah.
him.
This worked. This actually worked. But this here, yeah, this extra panel here was redundant. They didn't need this panel.
I personally liked it. I like the way it kind of flows. And then we get a subplot with his niece, um, who's very wide eyed. Oh, you're a superhero. I found out because you're strong. Um, I almost cared for the niece, but it didn't really um tug at the heartstrings enough to make me
Yeah,
want to
same
care.
here. Right.
And then this ending scene with the boss, where he's like, "Oh, we gotta do something about it." He has the same facial expression throughout the entire scene. He's got the same stark, like right here. He's like he smashes his glass down, and he's acting very angry. He's got same composure, same facial expression from when he was before slamming the drink down to after. And then here we have this sort of Edna mode from Incredibles and, superhero clothing
I
workshop.
see.
And then we get the final shot with him. He's like, "Oh, I think you need this back." And he's like, "Yeah, it still fits," which is his costume. So he doesn't even wear his. That's the ending scene. So he doesn't even wear his costume throughout the book. He's just in his like hoodie.
Happy Harry Hard on the Kryptonals. Isom is a travesty when it comes to comics. You want to know my favorite part of Isom? Not paying for it. Of course, you would say that, Ray.
Well, so overall, the only people that I cared for in this book that I wanted to read more about was actually Alpha Core, and they were given the least amount of screen time in the entire book. Because at least they had some mystery about them, and the most of like it was funny because most of the like civilians and stuff talked about them more than they did Isom or Avery's character.
Right.
So I learned, I was intrigued more by them than I was Isom or Avery. But other than that, it just felt like a generic, it didn't even have to be a superhero. It just felt like, any type of character, like either whether it be like an assassin or something like that, who is like living his life on his own. And then he's like, oh, I'm going to do this like one last time type thing. Come on in. And, it's like, okay, we've seen that before a lot, and it's good. It can work. It just seems like a sort of nothing book. So now, what you were saying when I asked you, did you even finish it? Do you want to? I gave this book. So after I read it, I gave it to him to read, and it's been a week now, and he still couldn't read it.
I still couldn't finish it. I couldn't finish it. Let me first just start off by saying this. I have no ill will towards Mr. Eric July. I personally don't have a problem with Eric July, like most people do.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not personal. It's not malicious either. I'm not. That's not my style. My style is not to be that way. Yeah, Oli. Yeah. I couldn't finish it, dude. I really couldn't finish it. I tried. I tried to finish this book and I couldn't. I really couldn't.
It's not like there's that much dialogue.
Well, let me explain myself, okay?
Okay.
So, Kyle was nice enough to lend me the book and I read it so I could give my thoughts. I mean, and of course, Kyle comes from the perspective of a reader, right? Consumer. I come from the perspective of a writer / editor. I know what it's like to make a comic book. I invested a lot of my own money in making comics. I know the process, all of it. So I will give Eric July A for effort because he did put a book together and that's not easy to do.
Right.
Ray, you can attest to it. Ollie, you can attest to it. Ben, you can attest to it. It's not easy putting the book together, especially when you have a small budget or not a big budget. Saying that, Eric July made his career shitting on other books, DC and Marvel. And again, everyone is different. When I see a book, when I buy a book and I read it and I don't like it, I just don't buy it again and that's it. That's the end of it. People are different, right? Everyone's different. Some people like to scream about it. Some people like to talk about it, and that's fine. But that's not my style. Yeah, of course. Now putting the good book together, yeah, that's a whole different story. But so when let me just once again say I don't have a personal problem against Eric July. I actually give him credit because he did something that most hate grifters on YouTube don't do, and that is make their own book.
Right.
And he did.
I forgot to mention that at the beginning. I do have respect for him because, like you said, it takes a lot to make a book.
It does.
And it's not like, and the art itself was pretty good, and at least to my eyes. But
Thank you, Tom.
yeah, it does. I do have respect for him in that he actually did go out and make a book.
Yeah, and $3 million is nothing to sneeze at either.
Mhm.
Much respect to Mr. Eric July for being able to raise $3 million for a comic book. Much respect, seriously, and I mean that. I'm not bullshitting. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm being genuine. I really do respect the fact that he raised $3 million for his book. So props to Mr. July. Saying that, I'm somewhat aware of when you gain success on YouTube, you garner money, right? You gain an income. And I know it's not high. Of course, it depends on the subscription and everything. The more subscriptions you have, the higher the rate will be with the YouTube partnership that occurs when you do get enough subscribers. So he had access to a budget that's, I would imagine, maybe 2 or 3 times more than someone like me or anyone who's kind of low tier in terms of budget wise. You read, Kyle, you read Ghetto Dragon. When you read it, you sat me down, we talked about it, you asked me all these questions, and the answer I kept telling you was I didn't have the budget, right?
Right.
There are some of those answers were like, I'm sorry, I didn't have the budget to do that. I didn't
Yeah.
have the budget to add 3 more pages. I didn't have the budget to add 4 more pages there. I didn't have the budget. I had to be very careful as to what to spend my money on. So I feel like Eric July didn't have that problem because this book was about what? How many pages total? Like 90, 100, something like that?
I don't know. He still has the book, so I can't look
Yeah,
at
I
it.
know. I have it downstairs. I don't have it on here with me. But so that tells me, okay, he was able to afford 100 pages with this artist, this inker, this letterer, and the copy editor. It looks like, because I don't think he had a editor. He had what's named here a copy editor. I don't know exactly what that means, but I don't think that means a comic book editor. I think it just means copy, meaning like making sure, I guess, everything will look correct or whatever. So my major problem with the book is, one, it's a rookie book. It's his first book. Everyone has written a shitty first book. I've done it. I'm pretty sure Ray's done it. Dionysius, outside of Tome, I'm sure you've done a book where you're like, at the moment you thought it was great, but then as the years passed on, you look back on, you go like, ooh, ouch, yeah, this wasn't very good. And I'm guilty of it too. Me too. And so I could give him a little bit of grace on that aspect, on that end of things, right? That this was his first book. Of course, he's gonna make mistakes, of course.
Right.
But his biggest mistake was not hiring an editor, a story editor, because, like you said, the story was not engaging. I found myself not caring for any of the characters, none, zero, and I wanted to. I wanted to care for Avery. I wanted to care about his story, but the execution and delivery was so off that I found myself going, ugh, when are we going to get something interesting happening?
Right.
Here? And I get the first few pages, right? He gets a call from his sister, tells him, hey, this girl's missing. Can you please look into it? He's like, no. And then the only way he gets convinced is, mom. Oh, remember mom? Mom really liked so-and-so. And then he's like, oh, well, I guess I gotta do it, or else mom's gonna kill me. And it's like, what?
Right.
What? It would have worked better for me if his sister told him something to the likes of, you owe me, brother. You owe me. Don't you remember? You owe me. I'm cashing it in. Go check it out, please. Okay, that's one thing. All right, now we're cooking.
Yeah.
Or
at least that it's something deeper.
Yeah. Or even, I got even one better. If his mom called him and told him to do it, that would have worked for me. Then he would have been like, all right, mom, or okay, I'll do it. I'll do it for you. Then I could connect with that because I was a mama's boy. I'm not ashamed to say it. I was a mama's boy growing up. So if my mom called me and told me to look into something, I'm going to do it because it's my mom. And so, first issue is just have guys give him a break.
Well, the thing is, when I was searching
says,
up
Martha, a setup for a greater failure. Ouch, Ray. Ouch.
Well, so when I was searching up trying to find issue 2, I found one of the covers of one of the issue 2 books, and on the cover it says find out, Avery's origins or something like that
All right.
to the effect. So I'm like, so is this next issue then going to go in back in time and talk about
Yeah, why he stopped being
his
a hero, all
story?
that stuff.
And I'm like, okay, so we're going to have 2 books of setup before we actually get to going and doing anything.
Yeah, it looks like it. It looks like it.
And then we're gonna have all the side characters of Alpha Core.
Yeah. So I think yeah, like I said, A for effort. He really truly needed an editor to tell him, look, dude, this is not working. You need to change a few things to make it work. I personally would have suggested you need to cut about 5 to 6 pages from this story because it's too loose. It needs to be tighter. It's too loose, and not only that, you have a lot of things you don't need here for the story. Oli says 290+ page books for a setup, guys.
Yeah. Meanwhile, some of the older, 80s books just took
128 page or 32 page issue.
And set up the whole universe.
Yeah, and what else did I want to say about this? He left the hero or the hero game, right? The superhero game. He goes back on a very loose motivating factor, and then he gets his ass handed to him by the bigger dude,
right?
And they fight, and then he fights Yara, and then he ends up at the hospital, and he escapes the hospital and goes back, and takes revenge, and like you said, runs into the girl he's looking for,
right?
And once again, she leaves out of her own will. So it's kind of like, dude, she's an adult woman. If she leaves out of her own will, don't you think that's a sign for you not to give a fuck anymore and just move on? But instead, he gave so in other words, I guess
the story was pushing him.
Yeah, the story was pushing him, and in reality, it was like, nah, it was definitely a rookie mistake book. I personally would not recommend this book to people, to new readers. Personally, I would say hold off on this because it's not worth it because there's nothing exciting here. And I get it. Once again, I get it. If people love the book, great, good on you, enjoy it. But coming from the perspective of a writer and editor, this book is not working. It doesn't work. The delivery just misses its mark. Every I guess enticing incident. The enticing incident has to be enticing for you to want to keep reading it.
Wow, and there's what a statement.
Yeah, there's no enticing incident here at all. And the enticing incident could have been like his mom calling them. I need you to look into this because she's. Don't you remember when I used to babysit her and she helped you that one day? Whatever the case, like something to like make me care. There's nothing for me to care here. And on top of that, it was a chore to read through. I couldn't find myself to like it. I wanted to like it and I couldn't. And that's why I told you I'm not going to finish this, dude. I can't finish this. I don't care. I don't care what happens anymore.
I know when we were talking about this earlier today, before we were getting on, and we were talking about the story and stuff.
Yeah.
And we mentioned about his niece and how she's just kind of there. And we were talking like what you were just saying about how to make things more interesting.
Yeah.
How much more interesting it would be, like you mentioned, if the niece was actually like secretly his daughter.
Yeah. And his sister was taking, maybe that could have been the "you owe me."
Right.
That could have called back to the "you owe me" scene. If like, you owe me, Avery, don't forget what I've done for you. Don't forget what I'm doing for you.
And I was thinking of like, maybe that's the reason why he left, because maybe in this world, the superhero's gene passed down. So he wants her to live a normal life and not live a life like him.
Yes. That
took like 5 minutes between us.
Yeah, simple things like this would have made this book great if we find out, oh shit, the niece, the little girl who we think is his niece is actually his daughter, and his sister is actually taking up the reins to raise her while he has to figure out what he has to figure out. Now, maybe we stumbled onto something, and maybe that's what's going to happen, and we just kind of figure, oh, that was going to be the thing, but he didn't do a good job planting the seeds of that.
Yeah.
If that's the case, I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but that would have been more interesting to me to find out that, oh shit, that little girl could be his daughter.
Well, that humanizes him more. It gives him more of a reason of why we should care about him.
Exactly.
We can relate to it.
Exactly. We can relate to that.
To his struggles.
Sorry, she's saying hello.
Yeah, got a guest visitor.
You want to say hello? Say hello.
Hello.
Okay. And yeah, dude, it's yeah. Let's just wrap this up real quick.
Okay.
Kyle, the moment of truth. All right, you guys got my opinion. Isom is not as good as people make it out to be, and I hate to say that because Eric July gets a lot of hate online, and a lot of it is unfair, to be honest with you. It really is. I don't think he gets. I think the hate he gets is unwarranted. But again, he did make his living crapping on other books, and when you do that and you put out your own book, well, as you know, you reap what you sow, right? You're gonna get back what you put out. So it makes sense to me why people are constantly attack him, but I got to give it to him. He made a book. He put his money where his mouth is, and he put it out there, and I can't fault him for that. But, brother, Mr. Eric July, if you do come across this video, hire an editor. You will benefit. You will benefit. It doesn't have to be me, okay? I'm not trying to get a job, all right?
Possibly.
Unless you want to, but I you don't, of course, you don't have to. But hire an editor. Do yourself the favor. Hire an editor, and it's going to do you wonders for your future as a writer. Because I'm pretty sure Isom #2 is better, but from what I've been told, it's slightly better. And you don't want slightly better. You want leaps and bounds better. That's what you want for your second book. And Alan Moore, going back to Alan Moore, when he was writing Captain Britain with Alan Davis, that first issue was a little wonky. The second one was better. The third one, leaps and bounds better, because they finally got their footing on the story.
Right.
So he had 90 pages to deliver a fantastic story where I could care, and he didn't do that in this book. So Kyle, saying that, moment of truth is Isom #1, written by Eric July, drawn by, who's the artist? Give me a second. Drawn by Cliff Richards, colors by Gabe El-Taib, letters by Eric Weathers. Is it worth the pickup?
In my opinion, no, it is not worth the pickup.
Not worth the pickup.
Even though there are things in it that I did like, you can kind of say that about, other books as well. But there was just too many things, little things that added up, and not enough for me to care. And if I were to go and try to, going through my bins, showing people stuff, and they come across that book and they ask me, hey, should I get, what's that about? And I'm like, honestly, I don't even know. Don't bother.
Okay.
Now,
there
however,
you have it.
However, I will say, I am thinking about getting Alpha Core, because that's the only thing in the book that I did pique my interest.
Are you going to pick up Isom 2 or no?
If I can find it and I can find it cheap somewhere, maybe I might get it just to see, but I'm not going to be actively looking for it.
Okay. So there you have it, folks. Isom #1, written by Eric July, drawn by Cliff Richards, is not worth the pickup. And I will have to agree with that sentiment. It's not worth the pickup. It's a great, like I said, A for effort, because I mean
Yeah.
it's very difficult to put out a book, and he did it. And I can't. I got to give him credit where credit is due, and because it's not easy to get a book out to people's hands, and he did. He has a warehouse now. He has a whole distribution center that he runs, and you
Mhm.
know what, man, that's great. I wish him all the best. I wish him all the success going forward. But yes, he needs an editor. He definitely needs an editor. And I hope if he does decide to hire an editor, it's a good one, because good editors build up writers. And I hope he finds one, because you know, I do want him to be successful. I really do. And I'm not bullshitting either.
Yeah, it's not like
So,
we're out here just saying, "Oh, it's bad," and he should never write comics again, and because he's so
right. Yeah,
terrible.
exactly.
It's like,
Exactly.
no, that's not the point of the show. This point of the show is just to say, hey, here's what we thought
Metal.
of the book. Here's what could be improved on.
Yeah.
There is something here, but it needs a lot of work.
Exactly. And he does. He does. I mean, like I said, from what I've heard, Isom 2 was better than the first one, but there's still a lot to be desired from the people who did back it. And so we'll see what happens when part 3 comes out, and see if people actually come back to learn about the origin of Avery. But Metal Movies and Brewskis, thank you for joining us. Now, Metal Movies and Brewskis drew a commission for believe it or not, give me a second, the Vigilant Fury campaign.
Ooh.
That's 4 hours left.
Oh man.
4 hours left, round to the wire. We have not met the goal. And I'm not even mad. I thought I'd be mad about it, but I'm not. I'm actually very grateful and proud of the work that we put in. And if last minute someone decides to back it, or to help us get over the hump, hey, thank you. If you do. But 4 hours left. Now, Vigilant Fury is a passion project of mine, that I produced and developed last year, around summertime. And it's a story about a young woman who goes on vacation in Florida and gets kidnapped by human traffickers, and she finds herself inside a container on the cargo ship headed straight to the Atlantic, and realizes that no one is going to come to save her. She realizes she's in a seriously bad predicament, and if she doesn't do anything about it now, then she will never have the opportunity to get out of it. So she decides to take action, and turns out the human traffickers quickly soon realize that she's actually a government agent on vacation that they took. They mistook her as a regular, a vacationer going
Tourist.
to Palm Beach, or wherever it is that she went. I think it was Miami, where I had her go. And they thought, hey, this girl is young, she's tiny, and we could take her. And it turns out that she may be tiny, she may be young looking, but in reality, she's an adult woman who's skilled in being a freaking, not a war machine, but a government agent. And
Right.
we're not going to reveal that until you read the book. And so
It's a secret.
she has to kill her way out of her situation. And the only way to do so is that she has to lure out the bad guys, because she discovers that not everyone on the ship is in on this nefarious operation of trafficking children and young people and teenagers. So a labor of love. Anthony Gambino is the artist of this book. It's a black and white ink wash, and the book is 80 pages long. $15 for the book, and we have all these perks here, where we have a digital copy for $5. We have the physical copy for 15. So again, 80 pages for a $15 book, black and white ink wash. And then we
Better deal
have
than Isom.
what's that?
Better deal than Isom.
Yeah, because Isom was what, $30?
Yeah.
30
I
bucks,
paid
right?
20.
No, 40. I can't remember how much it was. Level 3 was the sketch card bundle for $25. So you get a sketch card drawn by Gambino, and you get the book. The sketch card is something that you can request him to draw whatever it is you want within reason. And the level 5, the original art bundle, is the book plus an original page from the book itself. Anthony Gambino does not use digital. He is a traditional artist, so he uses paper and inks and the works. So you will receive an actual page from the comic book with this bundle, the level 5 original art bundle. Level 6 is the Gambino special for $400, and this is like I mean, where can you go wrong here?
Get everything.
It has everything. You, like you said, I wrote here, the offer you can't refuse. It's 3 pages of original art from Vigilant Fury, 1 9x12 original commission piece, and 3 sketch cards plus the book. Only 5 lucky backers will be able to get this, so get on it. So yeah, he has 5 slots. No one's backed it. Understandable considering the economy at the moment. But I mean, you're gonna get to own a piece of the book forever. It's gonna be yours. And again, the 80 pages that you're gonna see on the book are all hand drawn by freaking by Gambino. Oh, dude, thank you, Middle. I appreciate that. And like I said, Middle Movies and Brewskis, he drew a commission piece for me for Vigilant Fury that backers will receive part of the goodie package. So his piece will be part of the goodies that we plan on sending our backers when we're ready to fulfill. So there we go, 484, just $20 more. 4 hours left, and once again, as I tweeted earlier, the prices are really low, and that was on purpose. And Gambino and I talked about it, and the $15 price tag for the book is not going to be $15 after the campaign's closed. It's going to go up for obvious reasons. So, I mean, you're getting a killer deal with this campaign because of the 80 plus pages. It's not just 80 pages of story, it's 80 plus pages. Plus means behind the scenes stuff, things that he and I collaborated on, notes, all, like pretty much all the behind the scenes stuff that you get in Blu-rays nowadays. You get to see how Gambino and I worked together and how we came up with the flow of the action and all that stuff. So you're gonna get all of that when you back this not just this this campaign, but the book, because the book's gonna have all that stuff attached to it. Right? Wow. She came back again.
Part two.
And so yeah, guys, again, once this campaign closes, that $15 price tag is gone. It's bye-bye. It's not gonna be $15 anymore. It's gonna be more. I just don't know what the price range is gonna be, but it won't be $15 for 80 pages. So
I'd suggest backing it if you haven't already. Obviously, he shows me a lot of stuff since we work together, and
I do. I spoil Kyle.
I get some behind the scenes stuff.
Kyle has seen some pages that the people that I follow on Twitter, that I have not posted on Twitter, that I have not shown here on YouTube. So he's seen sneak peeks, and Kyle, I mean, you could testify if you like. You can let people know what you thought of the pages I've shown you.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen of this book, it's pretty good. Now I haven't read any because mainly I'm just looking at the art. I haven't really, seen any of the read any of the dialogue. He's told me what's kind of happening and what they're kind of going to be saying. So I'll have to see how well it flows. But from just Gambino's artwork, really gives depth and scale to a lot of the ship and the crew and different scenes. How I mentioned in the Isom book, how the action scenes flow very well, also is applicable here.
Well, there you go. Thank you. And I understand that black and white books don't do well. Like, I get that. but it was definitely a style, an artistic choice because of the content of okay. See, she's breaking my my train of thought. This Metal movies and Brewskis, it reminds me of Under Siege, Die Hard, and so much more. Yeah, dude, Die Hard
Right.
was a definite inspiration for this story because Die Hard is about surviving, right? He had to fight a whole group of armed terrorists that took over a building, and he only has a handgun. Did he have a handgun? I can't remember if he had a handgun or
He
not.
had a handgun, and
Yeah,
then
and that was
he got more guns and stuff
then he
from
got
the
more
people that
guns
he killed.
as he went along, right?
Yeah.
And I love the black and white art. The ink wash is awesome. I mean, Gambino. I mean, look at this. This is like this piece right here. Whoops, where's my mouse? There it is. This piece right here is just so well done and has so much character and depth to it. I mean, all his panels do. I mean, look at this. Look at all this detail, this glorious detail here.
Right.
That's not easy to do, by the way, for an artist. But he chose to go for it, and he did. He went for it, and I'm confident when backers get this book, they're going to be pleasantly surprised at how easy it is to read. And I don't want to knock Mr. July, but his, like I said, his book was a little bit of a chore to read, and this one is not. This one is, you're going to find yourself just turning the page, wanting to know what's going to happen next, because that's the kind of stuff I like to write. I like to write page turning stories, and that's the way comics should be. Comics should always be page turning. You always want to know what's going to happen next. And if you don't have that element in your stories, then what, excuse my language, what the fuck are you doing it for? If you're going to do it for that. If you're going to be a movie director, a novelist, a screenwriter, or a comic book writer, or even an artist who's telling stories, why in the hell are you not trying to create a page turning story? That's the whole point of the whole thing. And I've seen other writers on Twitter talk about this very thing, about how like they don't want to do that. And it's like, why in the fuck not? Why don't you want to do that? Why don't you want to have the readers pick up your book and want to turn the page? What's your deal, bro? Don't you want success in your career? That's the whole point. That's the whole point of telling the story. You want people to enjoy what you give them, so that way they keep coming back for more. And it's amazing to me. And then they wonder why their campaigns don't make it. Because I've seen, like, don't get me wrong, I'm the one, I'm one to talk, right? Considering that I can't even raise $500, but a lot of that's on me, because I didn't really go out there and promote myself too heavily, like I did the first time around, because this is a second chance campaign. But I've seen other writers who have Kickstarters, who have Indiegogos, and they're asking for like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and they can't raise the money. And then they get mad and they lash out at people because their books didn't fund. And then when I look at their campaigns, I'm like, well, dude, your story, it's not enticing. And the artwork is okay. It's like, all right, but I mean, do you think just like it's going to be like I hit live and it's good to go? No, you got to put in some work too. You got to put in some effort. And a lot of people don't do that. Huh?
That's with anything,
Yeah, exactly. It's with anything. Now, again, it's my fault for not pushing myself hard enough to get this campaign up and going, and get people to back it. But then again, this is Indiegogo, and the people who do back books on Indiegogo tend to be a little more picky of their books that they decide to back. They prefer color. They prefer high concept superhero stuff, or high concept sci-fi with bright colors or crazy looking artwork, and that's nothing wrong with that. So maybe the next time I'm going to try a Kickstarter and see how I do there. Maybe I'll try that early January or something. I have no idea, but yeah, we'll see. Tomo Reckoning says, I have made 500 and only 13 backers. I appreciate every single one. Like a man, take it on the chin and stride. That's right, dude. That's right. Even if we don't meet the campaign goal, it's fine. I'm still grateful for the 16 backers that we added to the already. I think the first time around we got I think it was like 40 backers, I want to say. I can't remember the exact number of the backers we got the first time around, but Yeah, I'm just grateful that close to 50 people are going to read this book, and I'm hoping that those 50 let people know about, Vigilant Fury. And the aftermarket definitely is going to be something that we're going to utilize once the book is done and completed and in the hands. Oh,
Yay!
there it is. There it is. We made it, ladies and gentlemen. We got funded.
Wow.
Do Kickstarter and indie. What can it hurt? Yeah, you're right, dude. That was my mistake. I should have done both Kickstarter and Indiegogo at the same time, the second time around, and I didn't. Um, for time purposes, I think I just realized, I don't have the time. But in hindsight, I should have done it. So maybe after the holiday season, because right now people are in shopping mode, right?
Right.
Thank you, Tom. People are doing Christmas shopping, so I would imagine, do I really want to buy a book? I don't know, but I have to talk to Anthony about it. So we'll see. We'll see what he says. And if he says, yeah, then you'll be hearing from me again talking about Vigilant Fury on Kickstarter this time around. Thank you, Middle Movies and Brewskis. I appreciate you backing it. And also I appreciate the commission piece you did for me for this project. So a lot of backers are going to see your piece of work when we're ready to fulfill. Wow, I can't believe it, man. Can you believe it, Kyle, that we got funded live?
Over the moon. It's your book. I'm just looking forward to reading it.
Yeah, 17 backers are now going to get their books. Once the campaign closes, guys, we're not going to go in demand. We're going to close it down. And those who backed it are going to get essentially a special edition book, because after this, we're going to do the after print run after we fulfill the campaign. And it's going to be straight up just the book, and that's it. No behind the scenes, no special, no sketch cards, no nothing, just the book. So if you guys backed it, you guys are going to get a damn treat when you guys get the book. So thank you again to all of you who supported the campaign, who supported me and Gambino. He and I are planning to stick together and work together and produce some more cool shit for you guys. Kyle let me The Long Halloween, and I've been reading it, and I've just been mesmerized, really. I forgot how good Tim Sale was. I really did forget that. And Tim Sale was just in a whole different level when he delivered his work. And as much as I'm not a fan of Jeff Loeb, I really am not. Oh, hold on. Metal Movies and Brewski says, thanks for the commission. It was a blast, and we'll still got to hit the LCS one day soon, and I will get that piece. Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're an OC, dude. That's right. We gotta meet up. Thank you, Ben, for the salutations. I appreciate it. Where was I? What was I saying? I lost
Jeff Loeb, you hate him.
Oh yeah. I don't hate Jeff Loeb. I just think he's a little overrated. I wouldn't say. They work together well. Both Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. And I remember Steve Dillon and Garth Ennis. They work together a lot in a lot of books together, produce great work together. And then there's other people like other teams like Mark Millar. I want to say Mark Millar and Frank Quietly work really well together when they work together. And then you have other teams. I would imagine. I just can't think of them right now. But
anybody with Alan Moore.
That's what. Well, yeah, but I mean, like, I'm talking about a writer and artist who stick together and work on different books together.
Oh, okay.
As a team. That's what I'm talking about. Because Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon worked on Preacher together, and they moved over to Punisher. And so on and so forth. And so I want to have that relationship with Gambino. Because Gambino and I really work well together. We see eye to eye on a lot of things. And this was the test run, I feel. And considering that this is his first book, it's amazing that he was able to do 80 pages, because this is his first actual comic book project. So I can only imagine how his art style is going to evolve post Vigilant Fury. And he's already told me, he's like, I'm going to change my style a little bit after we do Vigilant Fury. And I was like, dude, do whatever you want. The growth I've seen has been absolutely like a sight to behold, if I'm being honest. And we got some great stuff in the pipelines, and hopefully in the future you guys will stick around and we can provide you with some more fucking great shit. You put Miles on Gambino. I sure did. You know what? I think I gave him some gray hairs too.
Gave him some of your gray hairs.
I think I gave him some of my gray hairs, and he like, the one thing another thing I'll say about Gambino is that he really did step up. There was a point where he was stuck. He wasn't happy with what he was providing, and there was a lull period there where he wasn't really sure of himself, and he stepped back, put his pen down, and okay, I need to think of something else to do. And he figured out that he could do ink wash. And then once he figured out he could do ink wash, it like opened up the floodgates, and he was able to just pour out his creative, juices, I guess, onto the paper. And
sweat and tears.
Yeah, and he kept providing me fucking great page after great page after great page, and I was like, fuck, this guy got it. He found his stride. And it was great. It was a sight to behold, to watch an artist who take on his first project and deal with me telling him, oh yeah, it's going to be 40 pages. Oh, sorry, it's going to be 50. Oh, sorry, it's going to be 60. And I could see him going, oh no, oh no, and then 80 finally, and still went with it and still delivered it. So, kudos to Mr. Gambino if you're listening to this replay. It's good to have a couple of dudes that you can work with and depend on and know you can be real with. Absolutely. I have gained a friend in Gambino. He and I do have plans on either taking turns. He's going to fly up to California sometime soon in 2024, and I'm going to fly out to New Jersey sometime next year. And we're gonna like, he's going to hang out here. I'm going to hang out over there. So that's the goal. And I can't wait to meet him and hang out with them and talk comics and talk stories. So yeah. Kyle, cool. Is there anything else you want to add before we call it?
No, just congratulations on reaching the campaign. I mean, I backed it, obviously. But
yeah, you're definitely gonna get your copy for sure.
But I'm glad that it worked out, and I'm looking forward to reviewing it.
Awesome.
So we are gonna review it. I'm gonna get on. I'm on.
Yes, that's right. You know what? Let's make the announcement now. Fuck it. I will be sitting in the hot seat when Vigilant Fury is out. Kyle's gonna read it. He's gonna review it, and he's gonna tell you guys if it's worth the pickup. Because, like I said, we do have plans for this book. We're gonna plan on releasing it after the fact. We're gonna try to find the home for it, and if we don't find the home, then we're gonna publish it and distribute it ourselves. So Gambino and I will have to meet up and talk about that. But yes, Kyle is going to read Vigilant Fury, and I'll be sitting in the hot seat this time around. Yeah. He's gonna let you guys know if it's worth the pickup.
I don't hold back. I'm not gonna hold back.
And as you know, he doesn't hold back.
For him. I know, as we mentioned before, I did it with Ghetto Dragon, and so I'm gonna give my honest take.
Would you like to tell the people what we're gonna review next week?
I would, but I don't remember what we decided we were gonna do.
It was someone who used to work for DC Comics.
Oh, yeah, we are going to. Okay. Well, we're going to be reviewing Cyberfrog by Ethan Van Sciver.
I'll try to see if I can get him on the hot seat, but I'm not making any promises.
So we'll see. I have two books. I'm going to try to get his first book, but the one that I have. It's not here right now. It's in one of my
what, Benjamin? You're right. That's true. He did go on your stream and he was inspired. So you should take some credit for that, actually.
What?
Well, Gambino went on Benjamin Soto's YouTube channel and they were drawing. and during the stream, I think, if you correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, but he started doing ink wash. He was drawing a commission for someone else, and he started using ink wash, and that's when he realized he could do ink wash. It was at that moment when it clicked.
Wow, cool.
So yeah, you're gonna review Cyberfrog, and you're gonna let
Yes.
people out there know if it's worth the pickup. So next week, next Friday, let's talk about it. Kyle is gonna review Cyberfrog, to see if it's worth the pickup or not. Wrecked Planet, right?
Yeah, so I was gonna say, because I was gonna try to find the first one of the new series that he did, which was, I think it started with Blood Honey.
I think it was
I
Blood
don't
Honey,
have
yeah.
that one. I have the second one, which is Wrecked Planet, and a few other of his like side books that came along with it. And then I also have his 90s book that he made, the number one of that. So I'm gonna read both. So I'll have the 90s context, and then I'll have this number 2. Hopefully it'll make sense. Maybe it won't, but we'll see.
Maybe you could find someone who writes like the I guess the what do you call it? Maybe someone has a summary somewhere.
Yeah.
That kind
I'll
of
try to do that. If I yeah.
Encapsulates what do you call it? Blood Honey.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. But yeah, that's what we're reviewing next week. Depending on what happens this coming week, the topic will change here and there. So we'll see what we talk about next week. But yeah, join us here next week. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, leave a comment. And for those of you who joined us, Benjamin Soto, thank you for joining us. Metal Movies and Brewskis, Tome of Reckoning. Thank you for joining us. It was cool to have you. I really do appreciate the piece you did for me for Vigilant Fury and Ghetto Dragon. That is fucking cool. My wife fucking loved it. She loves it. She was like, "Oh my god, that's so fucking cool." So we should print that out and put it on the wall. And I was like, "Well, guess what, babe? He's shipping it to me and giving it to me." And she's like, "Oh, even better." So she was stoked, man. So thank you, Tom, for doing that. Ollie from 656 Comics, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. And of course, happy Harry Hardon. Ray, always a pleasure to have you because you just make things fun. You always make things fun. And I think that's it. Oh, Oli, not Oli. B Rose was here for a while here and then he booked it, but he still showed up and said hello. So thank you for joining us. So yeah, once again, guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you again for helping us meet the goal for Vigilant Fury. You guys will not be disappointed. For those who backed it, you guys are going to get a solid fucking story. And with that said, have a great weekend. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you on the next one. Kyle, say good night.
All right. See you guys. Bye.
See ya.